I think most of us would say we're tired. But if we're honest, we don't actually think the problem is what we're carrying. We think the problem is we just need to get better at carrying it. Like if we're just a little more disciplined, a little more focused, maybe a little more organized, we could finally handle everything we've taken on, which sounds responsible until you realize we've taken on things we were never meant to carry in the first place. Welcome to an extra shot of Grace in the Grind. This is where we slow down and stay with the conversation a little longer. Not more polished, just more honest. So grab your coffee and let's dig in. In the main episode, I said name one burden you carry that God never asked you to carry. And I know how that lands. Because you hear that and think, okay, but which one? Because everything feels important. Everything feels necessary. And some of it feels spiritual enough that you're pretty sure letting it go would be a bad idea. So instead of being vague, let's make this real. Because these burdens don't show up labeled. They show up sounding responsible. Burden 1. If I don't hold this together. This one sounds like, if I don't stay on top of everything, this whole thing falls apart. You're the one tracking it, managing it, keeping it moving. You didn't sign up for it. You just slowly showed up, became the person who handles things. And now, if you don't, everyone notices immediately, which is interesting because somewhere along the way, you got promoted to a role God never gave you. You became sustainer of all things. That position is filled, and you're not it. Burden 2. It's my job to keep everyone okay. This one shows up in relationships, and it feels like love. You're constantly reading people, adjusting, managing tone. You walk into a room and immediately start calculating. Are they okay? Did I do something? Do I need to fix this? And now you're tired, and you haven't even said anything yet because you're carrying a conversation that hasn't even happened. That's not love. That's emotional omnipresence. And again, wrong job. Burden 3. If I rest, I'm letting people down. This one sounds spiritual. This one feels like maturity. If I slow down, if I don't respond right away, if I take a break, then I'm not being faithful. Meanwhile, you haven't had a real day of rest, and well, let's just say it's been a while. And somewhere along the way, we started believing exhaustion equals obedience. Like one day, we're going to stand before God, and He's going to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You stayed tired the whole time." That's not in there, by the way. I've checked. If I'm being honest, I didn't see this at first. Christy pointed this out to me not very long ago, and I thought this was one of my strengths. Working hard, following through, being dependable, being the one people could count on. And those things matter, and they're good. But what I didn't see was where it had drifted. Because at some point, it stopped being about doing what was right, and it started becoming something I took pride in. I like being the one who could handle it. I like being needed. I like being the person people relied on when something had to get done. I wouldn't have said that out loud, but it was there. And once that starts happening, things shift. You start thinking, if I don't do this, who will? If I step back, this won't get done right. If I slow down, I'm letting people down. And exhaustion starts to feel like a badge of honor. Like proof that you care more, that you're more committed. But underneath it all, something else is growing. Not just responsibility, but pride. Quiet pride. The kind that says, this depends on me more than I want to admit. And that's where it stops being integrity. Because biblical integrity isn't measured by how much you carry. It's measured by whether you're aligned with what God actually asked of you. And if your version of integrity requires you to ignore your limits, to always be the one, to be needed, then it's not integrity anymore. It's identity. and it will wear you out. Burden 4. If I don't fix this, who will? This one is for the problem solvers. Christy and I get it. Which, if you're here, there's a decent chance that you do too. You see something broken and you feel it. Not just someone should do something, but I should do something. And sometimes that's right, but not always. Because not every need is your assignment. And if you treat every need like it is, you will never stop. Remember, Jesus was on earth for his entire ministry, and there were still problems going on. There was sin that was present. There were people who were starving, people who were sick, people who needed things. Jesus didn't solve every earthly problem while he was on his earthly ministry. It's not your responsibility to solve every one of them either. Burden 5. This depends on me. This one is the underneath everything. It's quieter. If I don't do this right, if I don't stay on top of it, if I don't keep pushing, this won't turn out the way it should. We don't say it out loud, but we live like it's true. Like God's plan is hanging on our ability to manage things well, which is a lot of pressure for someone who forgets why they walked into the kitchen. So let's separate this clearly. Responsibility says, I will be faithful with what God has given me. False burden says, if I don't carry this, everything falls apart. One leads to steady obedience. The other leads to quiet panic. And here's the good news. God is not frustrated with you for feeling this. He sees it. He knows exactly where the weight shifted. And he's not asking you to carry it better. He's inviting you to carry it differently. So instead of trying to identify everything, just be honest about one. Which one of those sounded like you? The one that made you laugh a little and then made you a little uncomfortable? That's usually the one. And instead of fixing it, bring it to Jesus. Just honestly. God, I've been carrying this like it depends on me. And then stay there long enough to realize it doesn't. You don't have to untangle everything this week. You don't have to fix your whole life. But you might need to admit you've been holding things with a grip God never asked for. And maybe faithfulness looks less like carrying more and more like trusting that Jesus meant it when he said, his yoke is easy. Thanks for sitting in this extra shot of Grace in the Grind, where we keep the coffee strong and occasionally realize we've been trying to run the universe, which turns out is not going so great. If this helps you see something clearly, send it to someone, not to fix them, just to remind them they don't have to carry it all. We'll see you in the next cup.